Which soldier terrified everyone without ever raising their voice? Sergeant First Class Wade Holloway never spoke above a whisper. In 3 years stationed together, I never heard him raise his voice once, but grown men would literally step aside when they saw him walking down the hallway. It started during my first week at a unit. I was struggling with map reading during a field exercise, completely lost trying to navigate to our checkpoint. The whole squad was getting frustrated with my mistakes. That's when Wade appeared beside me. Didn't announce himself, just materialized like smoke. He was maybe 5'8", average build, nothing physically intimidating about him. "Show me the map," he said quietly. His voice was so soft I had to lean in to hear him properly. He studied it for 30 seconds, then pointed to an exact spot. "You're here. Target is there. Take bearing 270 degrees for 800 meters. I followed his directions perfectly. Hit the checkpoint dead center. But what unnerved me was how certain he'd been. No hesitation, no double-checking coordinates. Over the next few months, I started noticing things about Wade that made my skin crawl. During weapons cleaning, he'd disassemble and reassemble his rifle faster than anyone I'd ever seen. Not showing off, just methodical precision. He knew everyone's full name, hometown, and family details without ever asking questions. Would mention your sister's college major in casual conversation, or ask about your father's construction business. Information he shouldn't have known. The really disturbing part was his knowledge of everything happening on base. Wade would quietly mention that Private Curtis had been drinking in the barracks 3 nights ago, or that Specialist Riffin was having money problems. "How do you know that stuff?" I asked him once. "People talk," he whispered. I listened, but it went beyond just listening. Wade seemed to know things before they happened. He'd tell you to bring rain gear on days when weather reports showed clear skies, then it would pour. He'd suggest you avoid certain areas of base right before MPs would show up for surprise inspections. Never explained how he knew, just quiet recommendations that always proved correct. The incident that made everyone truly afraid happened during a company barbecue. Staff Sergeant Felix was drunk, getting loud and aggressive with some junior enlisted guys, making threats, shoving people around. Wade walked over to Felix, hands empty, expression completely neutral, whispered something in his ear for maybe 10 seconds. Felix went white as a sheet, immediately apologized to everyone, threw away his beer, and left the party without another word. Completely sober behavior from a guy who'd been causing problems all night. Nobody knew what Wade had said to him. Felix never talked about it, even when pressed by his drinking buddies. Just said Wade was someone you didn't mess with. After that, the rumors started flying. Some guys claimed Wade was former special operations, discharged for reasons nobody discussed. Others said he'd been military intelligence, still had connections. The wildest theory was that Wade had done time in prison before joining the army, that his quiet demeanor came from surviving environments where showing weakness got you killed. I never found out which story was true, but I did notice how senior NCOs treated him. Even First Sergeant would ask Wade's opinion on personnel issues, like his judgment carried special weight. Wade would make quiet recommendations about soldier assignments, suggest who should get promoted or who needed additional counseling. Command listened to him more than sergeants with twice his rank. During my final month at the unit, I got curious enough to do some digging. Checked Wade's personnel file when I had duty in the orderly room. Most of his service record was classified, just his current assignment and basic information. Everything else was blacked out or marked with security classifications I'd never seen before. The only detail that stood out was his previous duty station, Joint Special Operations Command, the kind of assignment that meant you'd done things you couldn't discuss in polite company. When I transferred to a new unit, I asked around about JSOC veterans. A master sergeant who'd worked with them described the type of soldiers they produced. "They're not necessarily the biggest or strongest guys," he explained, "but they've seen things that change how you view the world. Makes them very calm under pressure, very aware of their surroundings." 3 years later, I ran into Felix at a veterans reunion. After a few drinks, he finally told me what Wade had whispered to him that night. "He didn't threaten me," Felix said, staring into his beer. "He just described exactly where I lived, what car I drove, and what time my daughter walked to school every morning." Wade had never made any direct threats, never even implied he would harm Felix's family, but the message was crystal clear. "I know everything about your life, and you should be very careful about your behavior." That level of situational awareness, that ability to gather detailed intelligence on everyone around him, that's what made Wade truly terrifying. Not anger or violence, just the quiet certainty that he could touch your life in ways you'd never expect. The last I heard, Wade retired quietly and disappeared completely. No forwarding address, no social media presence, just vanished like he'd never existed. But sometimes I wonder if he's still out there, still listening, still gathering information in that unnervingly quiet way that made everyone afraid to cross him.